For nearly the last 25 years, the Toyota Highlander has been a solid choice if you're looking for a comfortable, reliable, well-made, mid-sized family SUV. However, one of the biggest drawbacks to the Highlander was its snug third row and small cargo area relative to a lot of its main competitors, which is why late last year, Toyota introduced the bigger version of the Highlander known as the Grand Highlander. It's built on the same architecture as the Highlander, but the company essentially stretched this vehicle to the max, increasing the overall length by 6.5 inches, finally giving it a third row and trunk space that will work for large American families. So as you can see, this week, Toyota has loaned us the grandest version of the Grand Highlander known as the Hybrid Max Platinum. And the big question I want answered, for those of you who have a large family, has Toyota finally created a vehicle that will work for you? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling of this particular Hybrid Max Platinum, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, one of the interesting aspects of the Grand Highlander is the fact that Toyota offers it with 3 different powertrains, 2 of which are electrified. Now underneath this hood, which you can see is held up by a prop rod, there's a Lexus version of this car that actually uses struts to show that it is, again, a Lexus. You're gonna find essentially the top motor in the Grand Highlander family. It's a 2.4 liter gasoline direct injection 4-cylinder with a turbocharger on it, and it's paired up with 2 electric motors, including a powerful E-axle at the back, giving this vehicle electronic on-demand all-wheel drive as standard equipment. This is essentially the same powertrain that you're gonna find in the Toyota Crown, the Lexus RX 500h F-Sport Performance, and the TX also offers a variation of this powertrain known as the 500h as well. Now in the Grand Highlander, the gas engine on its own makes around 265 horsepower, 332 pound-feet of torque. When you add in the electric motors, you get a total of 362 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. That makes the Grand Highlander Hybrid Max among the most powerful you're going to find in its particular class. Keep in mind, there's also a non-hybrid version of this powertrain making around 265 horsepower. And then there's also a hybrid version, which is the middle powertrain that uses a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder with 3 electric motors and a CVT. That's the model that's the fuel efficiency leader, giving you 245 horsepower combined with all-wheel drive as an option and up to 37 mpg combined. This powertrain, however, is hooked up to a 6-speed automatic transmission, which is definitely unique. However, the fuel economy of the Hybrid Max is 26 in the city, 27 on the highway. This vehicle has just over a 17-gallon fuel tank. Theoretically, you should be able to do between 400 to 450 miles of range, but I wasn't getting that in my real-world testing, which I'll talk about during the driving scene. 0 to 60, Toyota doesn't claim that. We got 5.9 seconds in our first test with a pre-production car. This is a production car, so we'll retest it and see if we can actually get a quicker time. In terms of the top speed, this vehicle has a top speed just shy of 125 miles an hour. It'll tow a maximum of 5,000 pounds, which again is among the best for Toyota hybrid SUVs. And as this car sits, it weighs in at around 4,900 pounds, so it's a couple hundred pounds heavier versus a non-hybrid version of the Grand Highlander, but it's only about around 200 pounds heavier versus a Highlander. So Toyota did a really good job with managing the weight considering the big increase in size. But let's close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling of the Grand Highlander. Now I have to say, when this vehicle first came out, it really much, to me, looked like a big version of the Toyota RAV4, which is not a bad thing. However, I do want Toyota to expand the trim level availability of the Grand Highlander because you can only get it in XLE, Limited, and Platinum. I think this car would do well with an SE or an XSE trim level, so hopefully they'll add that for 2025. You can see the Platinum grade includes these full LED headlights. All of them have it, but I think the Platinum has a slightly upgraded look. You can see it has an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. You also get LED fog lights, which a lot of competitor vehicles don't even have fog lights. And you can see here there's a chrome, accent along the front fascia. You're going into the big Toyota corporate grille. I think that chrome piece would look better if it was black. Same thing with the alloy trim or the silver metallic trim at the lower front splitter. You have some functional openings around the front fascia, of course, because this is a hybrid. It has a gas engine, it needs cooling, your front cameras here, along with your integrated parking sensors. And overall, the design is conservative, maybe even minivan-like, but I also appreciate how it's a little bit more boxy versus the regular Highlander, which I expect Toyota to do an updated version at some point. Now, moving around the side profile, the looks of this car are deceiving because while it doesn't look that big on the outside, it's around 201 inches long and with a 116-inch long long wheelbase. It's 2.5 inches wider than the regular Highlander, and like I said earlier, 6.5 inches longer. Only the Chevrolet Traverse and the new Acadia and the new Enclave are going to be bigger vehicles. The TX is also around 2 inches longer. So again, this is among the biggest 3-row mid-size family SUVs you're going to find. You can see this particular one that I'm showing you has the correct wheels finally. These are a 20-inch wheel with the two color look with multiple spokes. You have a 13.3-inch rotor behind the wheel. They're basically front and rear. You have 4-wheel independent suspension, no adaptive dampers. You have also around 8 inches of ground clearance. The tires are 255 by 55 R20 on a Yokohama Geolander all-season tire. So again, very, very conservative wheel and tire package that should help with the fuel efficiency. I would have liked to see this trim here painted, especially on the Platinum version. And then you can see here moving around the rest of the side of the vehicle. The mirrors are power folding, integrated turn signals, cameras here, chrome trim along the belt line. You can see also silver accents for the roof rails. The panoramic sunroof is also standard on the Platinum. That is an optional feature on the Limited trim, which you can still get on the Limited, which is kind of a nice touch. You can see moving around this angle, this is where you can really see, you know, the resemblance to something like a Toyota RAV4 and the overall, you know, design and silhouette. I appreciate how Toyota went with a more blockier look. And then looking at the rear, you can see you've got those taillights that resemble the RAV4 as well. You can see they are a full LED design with a kind of a C-shape light signature. You can see LED turn signals, LED reverse lights. There's a Grand Highlander badge here along with Hybrid Max. If you don't have the Max, it'll just say Hybrid. And then there's a Platinum badge you can see. I also appreciate the dual chrome tipped exhaust. That's something that a lot of brands are going away from, but I like the fact that Toyota, you know, wanted to include that. I think it's an upscale touch. It really finishes off the look of the vehicle. I also really like the large rear third brake light and the spoiler at the top. The rear wiper, however, isn't nicely hidden. It's kind of just sitting there at the top, which is fine on the glass, but some competitors do a better job integrating that. Looking at the cargo area, you can see a foot-activated power liftgate is going to be included, and this is another reason why you bought the Grand Highlander, because you get a crap ton more space back here versus the regular Highlander. Just under 21 cubic feet of space with the third row seat up, makes it among the best in the segment. It's a solid 5 more cubic feet as well versus the regular Highlander. You can see in terms of the underfloor area here, there is a little bit of underfloor storage, but some competitors offer deeper storage wells like the new Honda Pilot, for example. And then you can see the third row itself, it can seat 3 people across, so you can get up to 8 passenger seating in this vehicle, which is nice. You can see if I want to fold down this third row seat here, I actually have to manually just push the third row down by pushing that lever and continuing to push forward. The Lexus TX offers a power fold feature, something that the Hyundai Palisade also offers. Fold down the third row, it expands it out to just under 58 cubic feet of space. Again, among the best in the segment. If you want to fold down the second row as well with the captain's chairs or the bench, whatever, it'll offer up to 97 cubic feet of space. So again, that's a significant chunk more than the Highlander, and it also makes this among the most spacious and roomiest cargo areas that you're going to find in its class. So this is a family SUV, so obviously the interior is probably a more important aspect if you guys are considering this vehicle. Before we hop inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the current Toyota Corporate Intelligent Access key. You can see it has a Grand Highlander badge along with some nice bronze accents. It includes features like unlock, lock, power liftgate, and panic function. You can also activate remote start by pushing the lock button 3 times, and on the third push, hold the button until all the lights start flashing. That will essentially remote start the vehicle. Toyota also offers their phone as a key function, a digital key. If you guys also, you know, have access to that with your smartphone, you can see the door handle is very traditional. There's a little line area there where you can touch your finger that will lock the door. Toyota does not offer a walk-away lock or unlock feature. So you can see when I lock the door, the mirrors fold in. But if you were looking for that feature, something like the Honda Pilot does offer that, so I wish Toyota would offer that at some point. Touch the back of the door handle, that's what's going to unlock the door for you. Now looking at the interior, the Platinum version includes this unique color combination called Portobello. Now when you guys go for the Hybrid Max powertrain, you also get real leather with the ultra suede, the copper accents, the contrast stitching. The seats are comfortable, supportive, and they surprisingly hold you in place very nicely during more spirited driving. I really like the seats. They're not quite as comfortable as the seats that I tested in the Lexus TX, but they're pretty darn close. These seats also adjust in 12 different ways. They are heated and ventilated, which is also nice. And you also have a 2-person memory, which I think is included on the Limited trims and up. The Limited trim will also include the heated and ventilated seat function. with the Ultra Suede if you guys go for the Hybrid Max powertrain. In terms of the materials, this is finally a production spec, so you can see there's a soft touch injection molded plastic here, this really cheap looking plastic which tries to look like a combination of like a dark alloy and carbon fiber. Padded area over here, hard touch plastic here, slightly padded over here. You have windows that are one touch up down for all four. Same high quality window controls. You can see nice feeling controls for the door lock switches, the power mirror controls, silver painted accented door handle here, hard touch plastic with some nice door storage. You have an 11 speaker JBL sound. If you're an audiophile, it sounds average. Toyota's JBL, I think, is among average to slightly below average in terms of sound quality. But overall, the interior, especially in this storm gray exterior with the Portobello interior, makes a great first impression. The Limited either offers a black or a gray interior, so this is one of the ways you're going to know this is a Platinum. Now, stepping inside, you can see it has a nice, easy step-in height because of that 8 inches of ground clearance as I shut the door. The door doesn't have the most solid sounding thunk. I even heard a rattle when I shut the door, which doesn't give you a great first impression, but I kind of noticed the same thing in the other TNGA-K architecture Toyota vehicles. Now, starting the vehicle up, start-stop button is down here. When you turn the car on, you can see no traditional starter noise, and that's because this is a hybrid. It's a full hybrid system, although it's slightly different versus the hybrid that you get in the regular mid powertrain that has a CVT and like 3 electric motors, but still the car essentially says ready. It shows an EV mode there to show that you're driving an electric only power. And then I also love the fact that this car has a fully digital instrument cluster, which I think is included on the top trims. All versions of the Grand Highlander will at least have the big 12.3-inch display. This is optional on the regular Highlander. It includes features like wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can see the response is quick, and its graphics are also nice. Don't love the big border around. Keep in mind the TX offers a 14-inch screen, but this is definitely going to do very nicely for most people. Going back to the native system, I think Toyota could do well to add a few more shortcut buttons to their native system. When you're back in here, you can see it does include cloud connected services for the GPS. Your audio information's here. Going to that, you can adjust your climate, you can adjust the trip information, the energy flow, graphics and quality. That all looks fine. Very little complaints with this infotainment system. For the most part, for me, it worked nicely. It connected to my phone almost every time. And most of you are going to have it in the CarPlay functionality anyways. You can see the steering wheel offers a manual tilt telescoping adjustment. It includes Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, so that's the sensor that watches your face with pre-collision assist, driver monitor to make sure you're paying attention. You can see the horn. It sounds pretty nondescript, but appropriately sized. The paddle shifters are included with the Hybrid Max powertrain, allows you to control the 6-speed auto. You have controls here to adjust the audio information, to adjust the screen as well. Your cruise control information is here. The turn signal and windshield wiper stalks feel high quality. And then in terms of the dash materials, you can see this upper portion is hard touch plastic. There's a heads-up display included on the Platinum grade as standard, optional on the Limited. Padded area over here with the faux contrast stitching, more of that fake carbon fiber alloy trim. But I appreciate the shelf there to put your phone, along with the USB charging port, and then 2 more USBs over here. Wireless phone charging pad here. And then if you push that button, you can see it gives you a full 360 perimeter scan. That's standard on the Platinum, optional on the Limited grade. That view is a little bit useless to me. I also don't like how the car is not color matched to my specific vehicle. But if you put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full top-down 360 camera. The graphics and resolution is pretty high quality. There's also an included washer there. If the washer or the camera is dirty, which also will activate the rear wiper as well when you push that button. So again, no complaints there. That's pretty much among the class competitive set. I don't like this scratchy plastic that you find here in the center console. Now, I do like how it's not a shiny piano black plastic here, because this shows fingerprints and smudges really easily. But this also feels a little bit cheap. There's a wireless phone charging pad here, which fits my iPhone 14 Pro Max nicely. Cup holders and more storage over here. Electronic parking brake. And then your drive mode selector is here. There's an Eco, Normal, and a Sport, along with a mud and sand and rock and dirt mode. Again, you can see that gauge cluster there shows you a nice little, graphic when you switch between the drive modes, and that's pretty much competitive with everyone else. You can see there's downhill assist control, a snow mode, and then there's a nice padded center console area. If you open this up, you can see pretty deep storage area, which is a nice touch. And then there's a traditional 12-volt power outlet in here, but your USBs are going to be located outside the actual console. This doesn't actually open up, it just slides open, which I kind of like because it allows whoever's elbow is resting here to still have access into the console storage area, but you don't have to actually move your elbow, which is nice. In terms of the sunroof, you can see the panoramic glass roof is great because it also lets in some light, and you can also open it up to essentially vent air, which is also a nice touch. It only opens up over the 2 front seats, but that's the biggest that it opens. It's still a pretty good opening. which is nice for letting in some light. I mentioned earlier the seats are comfortable and supportive. They also look great. The glove compartment here, you can see, is damped but not lined with felt. It's a pretty decent size. You can see the digital camera rearview mirror is standard on the Platinum, optional I believe on other grades. This is definitely a great feature to have if you plan to carry a bunch of stuff in this vehicle where it blocks your view. But overall, the interior, while it doesn't feel quite as nice as the TX, it's pretty darn close. It offers a ton of space, a ton of technology. I think a lot of people are going to be really appreciative of just how roomy this interior is. So here we are back behind the wheel of the Toyota Grand Highlander. Now I must admit, I already had one of these vehicles about 8 months ago. It was an early pre-production vehicle. I was hoping that Toyota would send me a 2025 version or at least give us some information on the 2025 Grand Highlander. We still don't know anything about that vehicle yet as of this filming in June 2024. I'm sure by the time this is posted, we may have some more information on that. So here we are back in a production spec version of this car, because remember about 8 months ago, we had a pre-production car that had the wrong wheels. There were a couple of weird quirks with it, but this model that we're driving is one that you can go to a dealership and buy on dealer lots. And I have to say, still, first impressions are very positive. This vehicle is really easy to drive. It's smooth, it's quiet, it's quick. It also gives you a very good amount of electric only range when you're driving at very low speeds, which we'll talk about later on during the driving scene. And of course, with 362 horsepower, this is among the most powerful 3-row family mainstream crossovers that you can buy. So let's go ahead and remind ourselves how quick this vehicle is. It's in sport mode now. Brake torquing, I believe, doesn't work, or actually it does work, I'm sorry. We'll just go ahead and we'll brake torque it, and then we'll let go of the brake. Accelerates nice and fast. That turbo engine really pushes this vehicle quickly. You've got a 6-speed auto. 0 to 60 in 5.56 seconds. That's actually around 0.4 seconds faster versus when I first 0 to 60 tested this vehicle about 8 months ago in the pre-production car. So that is very impressive performance. I mean, that's gonna be quicker, like a second quicker than most of its rivals. I believe only something like the Explorer ST may actually be quicker. I'll be driving the new refreshed 2025 Explorer sometime next month in July 2024. So maybe around the time this video is also going live. But overall, you know, if you guys want the quickest, the speediest Grand Highlander, you're definitely going to want to go for the Hybrid Max trim, because this is an overachieving powertrain. It's the same one that you're going to find in the Lexus RX 500h F-Sport Performance and the TX 500h as well. So this time we won't brake torque it, we'll just floor it. You get that nice surge initially from the electric motors, and then the turbo engine kicks in. 5.9 seconds there. This is with it more going slightly uphill. And I have to admit, this thing is definitely fast. I had a chance to actually spend a lot more time in this Grand Highlander. I took it on a basically 400-mile road trip over to New York City. And this thing really just ate up the miles. It's really comfortable. It's really smooth. Like I said, it's super quiet and it's really easy to drive. And in terms of handling dynamics, this is where the Grand Highlander could use some work here. I mean, if you guys don't really care about sporty driving dynamics, I imagine that's probably most of you. That's why something like the Mazda CX-90 exists. The Grand Highlander has a competent drive. The steering is light, numb, and devoid of feel. The suspension is really soft. There's a ton of body roll, but it also doesn't feel unsafe. It just feels like it floats over the road, even on these 20-inch wheels on a 255 by 55 wide tire. It just soaks up the bumps nicely. You have an all-independent suspension. No adaptive dampers, though. That's something the TX 500h gives you along with rear-wheel steering. Obviously, Toyota, or Lexus had to get something that the Toyota doesn't have. So if you want a sportier drive, the TX 500h is definitely going to be, that vehicle for you. But the Grand Highlander essentially just drives like a bigger version of the Highlander, because remember, this is it's the TNGA-K architecture. It's a very flexible, scalable, architecture that feels really stiff, feels really solid. And the visibility out of this car is also good. I can see out of the front, the side, the rear is also good. Even if you don't get the digital camera rearview mirror, aside from the rear head restraints that will block, that will again be demolished when you just put this vehicle or turn that on. The one thing I did notice, the brakes in this car, they do feel spongy. I'm not a fan of the way the brakes feel. You kind of have to put your foot down hard, and then they don't really bite, and then you put them on a little harder, they bite a little, they're a little grabby at that point. So takes a little bit of getting used to, but I think the brake calibration could have been better. The 6-speed auto in this car is also interesting because it feels like you're driving a traditional car, although I think the fuel efficiency and acceleration could have been even better had Toyota used their 8 or 10-speed auto. So I'm a little surprised they decided to go with a 6-speed auto. It just is weird because it's down so many gears compared to its competitors. but that's something, again, to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and try it again here. This time we won't brake torque it. So quick off the line. Again, 5.5 seconds there consistently. So brake torquing it doesn't add any kind of quicker acceleration runs, but it really shocks me that this is among the quickest accelerating. It's literally around a second to a second and a half faster than all of its rivals that don't have like an upgraded engine. I mean, even the Mazda CX-90, the Turbo S with its turbo inline 6 isn't quite as quick as this car, which is kind of surprising. It's shocking to me. I got 6.2 in the Mazda. So it really shows you that Toyota, they do hybrids the best. They're overachievers in terms of acceleration, at least this Hybrid Max powertrain is. Maybe not in terms of fuel efficiency, but still, considering the power that you get with the fuel efficiency of 27 mpg combined, this is the best that you're going to find in the segment, and that's very tempting. Now, of course, there's also the regular hybrid, the middle powertrain, which will do about 7 mpg better if you guys go for the limited all-wheel drive trim. Is it worth it to, you know, sacrifice the power that you get with this Hybrid Max? Because you get an extra 120 horsepower almost for losing that 7 mpg. That's a pretty big you know, increase in power for that trade-off in fuel efficiency. But in terms of the fuel efficiency, I had a chance to put, again, 400 miles on this vehicle. In my weeks for the testing, I averaged 26 mpg in mixed driving. Now on the highway, it did around 28 mpg. So a little bit better versus what the EPA says. You have a 17-gallon fuel tank on this car, which theoretically you should be able to do around 450 miles of range on a full tank. This is where this car confused me, because I let the tank go down way below a quarter. So the low gas light essentially came on. It was showing like 40 miles to empty, 30 miles to empty. And I put 12 gallons of fuel in this car, and I was only able to go around 340 miles of range in that time. That's what really shocked me, because putting in around 12 gallons means I had around 5 gallons left of fuel in the tank, but why was the trip computer only telling me I only had about 30 miles of range left? It should have really been able realistically to do around 100 more miles of range. That's where you can go around 450 miles. I think the programming of this car's, computer is a little too optimistic, because or maybe that's not the right word. It's a little too conservative, because it's literally like telling me to fill up the fuel, and I still have 5 gallons left with 30 miles of range. That doesn't seem right. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys own this vehicle and you're also experiencing the same things, because I was very confused about the range on this car. Really only going 330 miles is unacceptable. But in reality, I knew I had at least 5 more gallons of fuel. So it would really take me a test of like pushing it past the distance to empty in the trip computer, which I don't really necessarily want to do, because I don't want to be that idiot that runs out of fuel. But other than that, 26 mpg in combined driving is pretty good. Although the regular hybrid powertrain is probably only about, I want to say, 4 mpg less. So you do, get a little bit of a boost in mpg, but you get a significant boost in power. So they really focused hard on the max portion of this hybrid powertrain. And they definitely got the acceleration right. I just think that they could also improve the fuel efficiency. Something like this, I think, should be able to do 30 mpg in combined driving. It should be possible. So I think if Toyota had gone with an 8 or a 10-speed auto, they probably would have been able to achieve that. Or at least if they used a CVT with this powertrain, they probably could have achieved that. In sport mode, I also noticed the transmission is holding gears. Put it into normal, it quiets down, and this vehicle is just an excellent road trip companion. But overall, if you guys are looking for basically a replacement for your RAV4 because you need the additional space, or a replacement for the regular Highlander, obviously the Grand Highlander is an excellent choice. And after spending some time with the luxury version of this car, the TX, I have to say there's a lot here that Toyota gives you that makes you essentially feel like you're driving a Lexus, and it makes you question whether it's necessary to even go to the TX unless you're going for that plug-in hybrid powertrain that's a Lexus exclusive. So the Grand Highlander is a vehicle that consumers and dealers have been begging Toyota to finally build, and after spending a full week with an actual production version of the top spec Grand Highlander, it's pretty easy to see why this vehicle exists in the lineup. It has been a 3-row SUV that Toyota has needed so badly, because if you guys are looking at a regular Highlander or upgrading from that, this just offers so much more space. The cargo area is a lot more spacious. The 3rd row can finally fit full-size adults, and if you guys want to load this thing up with 6 people, I had a chance to do so with their stuff, and it really knocks that kind of task out of there. This is a vehicle that is comfortable, easy to drive, great on road trips, and also has quick acceleration, as you guys saw. 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds makes this among the quickest accelerating vehicles in the segment. The only vehicle that I can think is going to be faster would be like a Dodge Durango with the V8 or a Ford Explorer ST. Both of those vehicles are going to suck up a lot more fuel versus the Grand Highlander. Now, I did want to also mention the fuel efficiency during my week's worth of testing. While at 26 mpg is fine, I think Toyota could improve that to around 30 mpg, especially if they added 2 or 4 more gears to the transmission or used a CVT instead. I'm still not entirely sure why the range of my particular test car here didn't quite live up to the 400 to 450 mile number that it should be getting. So I'll have to reach out to Toyota and figure out what the deal with the programming is, of course, with the trip computer, with the distance to empty, and of course the gas gauge. In terms of sales of the Grand Highlander, this vehicle has only been out for less than a year, but Toyota did around 40,000 units in 2023. This year, as of June in 2024, so we have sales figures all the way up to May, Toyota has sold nearly 50,000 Grand Highlanders in the US. In terms of the mix between the hybrid and the gas-powered version, about 40% of people have been choosing the hybrid, which is a pretty impressive number. And in terms of the regular Highlander, this vehicle has almost matched up to the Highlander in terms of sales. I think the Highlander did around 52,000 sales as of June 2024, while this did around 48,000 sales. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Grand Highlander outsell the Highlander at some point. Compared to its rivals, only the Ford Explorer and the Honda Pilot have outsold the Grand Highlander so far. This vehicle currently right now is outselling the Kia Telluride and the Hyundai Palisade, which is a pretty impressive feat. So at some point, I'll be wondering if Toyota will eventually just discontinue the Highlander and just make everything the Grand Highlander, because this is exactly the kind of vehicle that a lot of people are looking for. Now, in terms of pricing, this is where the Grand Highlander does find itself a little bit more expensive than its rivals, because you're going to spend at least $43,000 for a base XLE with front-wheel drive, at around $2,000 if you want the hybrid powertrain, at another $3,000 if you want the hybrid max powertrain. This particular one that I'm showing you here is the Platinum version. It's essentially the most expensive version of the Grand Highlander with the hybrid max powertrain, starting at around $58,000 with destination charge and a couple of options that my test car has. Accessory stuff, you're looking at just over $60,000 for an as-tested price, which 60 grand sounds like a lot of money, but just also keep in mind that it offers one of the best powertrains in the segment because of the horsepower and the fuel efficiency numbers that you're going to get. And while it may not be the most luxurious or most stylish or most sporty, I think Toyota has nailed the aspect of being family friendly, and it also has that reputation for build quality and reliability. In addition to the fuel efficiency, you also get that power. So I think that's a really interesting aspect here of the Grand Highlander. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my very detailed overview on the 2024 Toyota Grand Highlander Hybrid Max. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.